Why do a boring 1x1 rib when you can do a 2-color corrugated rib? Learn how to do the corrugated ribbing with me, your Bi-Crafty bestie. Let's go!
Show me love, show me love. This is all we got.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to easily do the 1x1 corrugated rib in the round. To work along with me, go ahead and grab that free pattern for the Harmony Hues Hat. You'll find the link in the video description box right down there below. Grab 2 colors of worsted weight yarn and a pair of size 9 16-inch circulars, and we can get started on this ribbing.
Show me love.
Welcome back with your pattern and your supplies. Let's learn how to do the corrugated rib, and then I will follow up in this video with all the key things you need to know about working a corrugated ribbing. So first things first, let's grab your yarn and your needles and begin. For this project, I use Peyton's Classic Wool. We are using the color Rich Teal for this. I have a pair of size 9 16-inch circular needles, and I want to begin with a long tail cast on. You could choose a different cast on if you wish, but I prefer the long tail cast on because I like the way it looks with the little rolled edge that you get with the corrugated rib. Now, I do have a detailed video for how to do the long tail cast on if you're interested. I will make sure to put a link right here. Otherwise, go ahead and cast on the number of stitches you need for your hat. It would either be 100, 110, or 120. Here's a little tip. As you're working your cast on, use a stitch marker to indicate every 20 stitches that you cast on. It'll make it easier for counting purposes. And I love these little simple jump ring stitch markers for this purpose. If you want to know how you can make these jump rings, go ahead and click the link that's in the video description box below. When you get your last stitch cast on, go ahead and place the marker that you want to use to indicate the start of your round. Now that we have the stitches on our needle, it's important we make sure that none of them are twisted. To do that, I love just going along this really nice edge that's created with the long tail cast on and making sure the edge is all pointed towards it inside of the circle that I'm getting ready to create. So what I mean here is at no point is my edge kind of circled around my cable. It is all going in the same straight direction. And that's one of the beauties of using the long tail cast on, okay? Once you have straightened everything out, you will place the needle that you were casting all the stitches on onto your right hand. That's the needle that has the yarn attached, the working yarn. Grab the other needle that has your first stitch on it and put that into your left hand. Maneuver the stitches up so that way they are close to the tip of the needle and everything is still nice and straight all the way around. Position your working yarn so that way it is not coming from underneath your needles, it's coming out the top, so that way it's not getting caught anywhere when you join this to make a circle. Now, you don't have to do anything fancy here. You don't have to make an extra stitch and jump it over. You literally are just going to start knitting. And yes, I do mean knitting. We're going to knit the entire first round. This is going to give us a nice little tiny rolled edge on our corrugated rib. You don't have to do this, but for my hat, I love the way it looks, so I did it. So let's go ahead. We will knit the entire first round. Let me show you how. Let's begin by making this work join to form a ring. You will do it just like this. Go into that very first stitch on your left hand needle, yarn over your right hand needle, and pull your yarn through. Make sure this is nice and snug and let that stitch jump off. That's it, guys. You just joined to work in the round. Now we go ahead and knit every single stitch all the way around, just like so. And you can do this with the yarn in your right hand, like I'm holding it here, or you can do it with your yarn in your left hand as I'm holding it here. So as you're working around, go ahead and move the stitches along the needles. You'll have to pause and move these stitches down on your right hand needle and then move these stitches up on your left hand needle so that they are coming up to the needle to play. All right, so this is just knitting the entire round. As you come up to the end of your round, you will go ahead and slip your marker over, and it's perfectly okay to have a little bit of a gap right there where your join is. You have this tail that will be able to close that up so it won't show at all when it's time to come. Congratulations, you just finished the setup round of the brim for the corrugated ribbing. Now we get to jump in with 2 colors. We're going to stick with our main color here and introduce a new one. As a complement to my color A, I am choosing Seafoam for my color B, and we are going to do 2 color Fair Isle knitting for this first round. The reason you do 2 color Fair Isle, not ribbing to start with, is because we want our colors to line up exactly where our ribbing is going to happen with our colors. And that will eliminate any sort of a color blip from our color A to our color B when it's time to do our purls. Now, we do this 2 color Fair Isle with 1 color in each hand, and I'm going to suggest whatever hand you're most comfortable doing purls with, put color B in that hand. For me, I'm most comfortable doing purls with my left hand, so I will put that color in my left hand, and I will keep it in my left hand starting right here as I'm doing knitting, so that way as I transfer to the purls, it's still in that same hand. Pick up your needles and knit the first stitch with your color A. Now you'll go into the next stitch, grab your color B, and this time you will yarn over your needle with your color B and pop that out. Go into the next stitch, yarn over your needle with your color A and pop it out. Next stitch is color B, and so on and so forth. I'm holding the yarn, 1 in each hand, and you will notice that as I create each stitch, I wrap my yarn around my needle and I bring my yarn back behind my needles. My yarn is not up here. I keep it back here, and that's very important to keep tension. Okay. The other thing is you want to make sure that your stitches are not getting too tight right here. So keep them as spaced apart as you would if it was just basic stockinette. So as I go to the next stitch, I will knit with my color B, go to the next stitch, knit with my color A. And I will just continue on working with my yarn in each hand and transitioning from color A to color B, color A to color B. Again, make sure you're keeping your stitches nice and spaced out so they don't bunch up. And by doing this, we are floating the color from one stitch to the next behind the opposite color stitches. So those floats need to remain consistent throughout. So this is really the setup for our entire corrugated ribbing. We want to make sure this is not too puckery, too tight. So you want to keep all of your stitches nice and uniform. Take your time with this. If you still have your stitch markers in place, you can keep those going if you want. You don't have to. If you want to remove them, you can. I like to have them there because it gives me this sense of accomplishment of, oh, that was 20 stitches. Now I can go on to the next. As you come back around to the start, you should finish with your color B. And when you move your marker, you'll be ready to continue on in the corrugated ribbing. Now your color B might seem like it's a little bit loose because it's just sitting right there, right? Your tail. Don't worry, you'll weave that in later and it'll be just fine. Okay, we have done our long tail cast on, we've knit around, and now we have worked 2 color Fair Isle all the way around. It's time to actually jump into the 1x1 ribbing. What I want you to do is keep your color A in the knit stitch and keep your color B in the purl stitch. So we are going to work all the way around and we will continue to do our 2 color Fair Isle technique, but we will be knitting with color A and purling with color B. Keep your colors, keep the yarn color in the same hand that you had it in when you did your previous round and continue on. So if you're looking at color A, you know you will be knitting with color A. If you're looking at color B, bring it forward because you will be purling with color B. Make sure you bring your yarn back between your needles with that color B before you move back to your color A. between your needles to the front and purl with B. Move that yarn back between your needles to the back, and then you will knit with your color A. Between your needles, purl with B to the back and knit with A. As you are working around, don't forget to maintain the distance of all the stitches in your right hand, and then keep those floats nice and consistent behind these stitches, okay? You'll get very comfortable with this. You'll notice that if you did what I mentioned as far as making sure that you have color B in the hand you're most comfortable doing your purls with, you are not struggling along. But if you have your color B in the opposite hand that you're not used to doing purls, you're probably like, it's all right, you can do this, I promise. It just takes a little bit of practice. Continue in this manner, making sure you knit with color A, purl with color B, and get all the way around back to the beginning. As you get back to the beginning, you slip your marker and you will just continue on. Now you'll notice as you look at your work in progress, you can see that all of your purls, they don't have any sort of a blip of the other color, right? So your color A does not blip into those purls. That's why we did that first round of just knits with the two color all the way around. So you would continue stacking your knits and stacking your purls in the same color until you get to the point that you are done with the brim of your hat. At which point I like to finish off with just a knit round of color A, and I continue on with the body of the hat. Pretty easy peasy, right? Now you can do the corrugated rib. Now, as promised, I'm going to tell you some things that you need to make sure you're aware of before you jump into a corrugated rib pattern.
Show me love.
First, the corrugated rib is not nearly as stretchy as the basic 1x1 rib. You will notice that the gauge of my corrugated rib is the same as the gauge of my Fair Isle stockinette stitch on the body of my Harmony Hues hat. Whereas on my Kaleidoscope Harmony hat, the 1x1 rib has a different gauge than the Fair Isle stockinette stitch on the body of the hat. This also tends to pull in and be a little bit more snug on the head, which is a great feature, but if you are looking for that with the corrugated rib, you have to compensate. You'll have to use fewer stitches and then increase for the body of your hat, okay? The second thing that I want to mention is that the corrugated rib naturally tends to curl. Notice down here on this 1x1 rib, I did a long tail cast on and it lays nice and flat. Whereas over here, I did a long tail cast on. I did one extra round of knitting, but it does tend to curl on itself. That's the nature of the corrugated rib. So if you don't want this part of your hat to show too much, it's a really great chance for you to add a purposeful rolled edge to your corrugated rib. I only did one round of knitting after my long tail cast on here, but you could have done more than that, and then you could do even more stitches just in plain stockinette with color A, and then transfer to your corrugated rib if that's the look you're going for. But it's important to note that it does tend to flip up or curl up. By using a wool yarn and a steam iron, I was able to get this to flatten out and it looks really great on the head. The next thing to mention on this is that when you're doing corrugated rib, obviously you get to use two colors and you get a beautiful look. Whereas you're doing 1x1 regular ribbing, it only uses one color. So you don't get quite nearly as beautiful of a design feature as you do with corrugated rib, okay? The other thing to mention here is with corrugated rib and 1x1 ribbing, you can use 1x1 or you could use 2x2, 3x2. Any sort of configuration is possible with corrugated rib and with basic ribbing. The next thing to mention is that just like basic ribbing, you can use different weights of yarn to get a corrugated rib. This here is a sock weight yarn called my Disruptive Locomotive motive hat. And you can see I did corrugated rib around the bottom of this hat. And then I worked increases to get a bigger body of the hat. So it billows out just a little bit more on the body of this hat. But you could use sock weight yarn, DK weight, sport weight, worsted weight, bulky weight, totally up to you. As far as the cast on methods, you can use any sort of cast on you wish. Again, just remember that you do get that little rolled look, okay? The next thing to note, and we did mention this, and we did prevent this by working that one round of 2-color knitting in just knits, is if you want to eliminate any sort of a blip in your purls, do the first round of your corrugated rib in knit stitches. So do knit 1 stitch in color A and then 1 stitch in color B and so on and so forth. If you're doing 2 by 2, it would be 2 with color A, 2 with color B, whatever your sequence is. By doing that, you get a really nice crisp look where all the purl bumps are all the same color. You don't have a random purl bump in the opposite color, all right? Those are all the things I can think of to share with you. Now go on, add corrugated ribbing to any other pattern that you wish to try it out on. Just make sure you do a swatch. And if you do make the Harmony Hues hat or the Kaleidoscope Harmony hat, make sure you let me know. Tag me on social media, use hashtag MarleyBird or MMMDI, and I'll be sure to smash your like button. Make sure you subscribe right here for more videos teaching you how to become a better knitter and crocheter with your By Crafty bestie. Bye, everybody. You now know how to do the corrugated rib. Why not jump in and make the Harmony Hues hat? This is a free pattern available at marleybird.com. Go ahead, get started. You know you're going to love it.
Show me love.